Hi, friends. Pastor Jim, First Congregational Sheboygan. So, I've been thinking about joy and peace. I spoke about that in my devotion last week and in the Sunday sermon as well, thinking about what makes for peace, where Jesus said, "Peace I give to you. I do not give as the world gives, do I give to you." And I made a distinction recently in one of these videos about the difference between joy and happiness. And joy is great when we get it, but it's a gift from God. And so we can pray for it and ask for it. But happiness is not to be underestimated either. I mentioned how I was walking recently in the neighborhood and I saw a sign in someone's yard. It's a little sign in their garden, and it said, "Do something every day that makes you happy." And I realized that is so important, especially when we're stuck inside. Oh my God, the last couple days with the rain, when we weren't worried about our basements or our gardens being totally flooded, we were still feeling the effects of being indoors and it being dark and gloomy outside. And so many of our neighbors, not to mention restaurants down on the riverfront and shops, struggling now with flooding, and it's just worrisome. But how do we find ways to be happy? And one thing I'll bring up again is play. We need to play. We can do it by ourselves. We can do it with others. We obviously want to be safe in this time of coronavirus pandemic. But I remember a doctor. I saw a video of a retired doctor in California. I think he was a psychiatrist, retired, and he spent the vast majority of his waking hours outdoors on roller skates. Now, listen, he was retired, so he's entitled to that. I'm sure he had ways to serve others and had family connections too, but he loved to roller skate. And I'd love to find this video. If I can, I'll send a link or post it on this YouTube video. So he was just rollerblading around town and up and down the boardwalk and waving to people, saying hello, smiling. But he just loved getting out in the sun and the wind and beautiful sea views, I'm sure, and loved to have that feeling of play. I know I've had that on my bicycle, and when I've been running or going for hikes in the woods. But this feeling of getting away and just enjoying our body and our mind and that interconnection. So there's a fellow who wrote a book called Flow. You've probably heard of it. And he talked about that state where we're just in the flow, whether we're playing basketball or solving a math problem or whatever. And the idea of flow is that we have to find a degree of difficulty that's just enough, just challenging enough to keep us interested, but not so difficult that we're tempted to give up. And we find that sweet spot. And there's a balance there between too much and not enough. And it gives us a sense of engagement and satisfaction. There's a phrase, all work and no play leads to depression, makes Jack and Jill dull people. The absence of play leads to depression. I read this recently and it struck me as being true. So one question, an essay that I read recently suggested we ask ourselves is, what was my play like as a child? Because maybe we've gotten away from it as adults and we've not playing as much as we used to, and we might be suffering for it. I think about myself as I think about growing up and what kind of play I enjoyed. There was play with other people. We did a lot of sports in the neighborhood. We had people up the street who were good athletes and were always organizing games, and I did what I could to hold my own. But we played football, baseball, basketball. I played a lot of tennis, frisbee, croquet. Oh my gosh, I loved croquet on a hot summer night, and we'd play until it was almost so dark you couldn't see the balls anymore. We played army, soldiers, cowboys and Indians, that sort of thing. Rode our bikes through the woods and made up all sorts of games, and we had roles to play. Hide and go seek and sardines and occasionally capture the flag. That was great fun. A lot of things I also learned to do on my own, though, for various reasons. As I got older, harder to organize things in the neighborhood when people are in school doing work or had jobs and that sort of thing. But I loved long bike rides as a teenager. I loved photography and darkroom, playing with a chemistry set in the basement, climbing trees. I did that with friends. I did it by myself. And then organizing collections of stuff. I had a coin collection. I had seashells and coral and skeletons of animals that I found or people had given me. And I even set up a little natural history museum in our sunroom growing up and charged 25 cents for my family and friends to come look at it. A lot of fun. So just thinking about that list that I just shared with you gets me in a nice feeling again. I remember how much fun we had playing as kids. I encourage you to think about what kind of play did you have as a child, and what parts of that in your memories might you reinstitute, incorporate into your life today. We certainly have more time now without all those church meetings, right? And night meetings, and we're working from home, doing a lot and working from sun up to sundown, many of us, but take time during the day to get out and play. Savor it. Say to yourself, this is a good moment. I'm enjoying myself. And how can I bring more gratitude to this moment? I think we'll find that we feel happier, and we certainly will be a blessing to those around us as well. Peace be with you.